When Africans ruled Europe for 700 years, the Moors' history they hid. Imagine walking through a European city where the streets are lit at night. Libraries hold hundreds of thousands of books. Doctors perform advanced surgeries, and scholars from around the world gather to study science, mathematics, and philosophy. Now imagine that this city existed at a time when much of Europe was still struggling through the early Middle Ages. That city was Córdoba, and the civilization that built it was led by people the world later called the Moors. For nearly 7 centuries, powerful rulers from North Africa and the Islamic world governed large parts of the Iberian Peninsula, the region we now know as Spain and Portugal. Their arrival would change Europe forever. The story begins in the year 711. Across the narrow waters of the Strait of Gibraltar, an army prepared to cross into Europe. Leading them was a brilliant military commander named Tariq ibn Ziyad. His forces were made up largely of Berber soldiers from North Africa. According to legend, after landing on the Iberian Peninsula, Tariq ordered his ships burned. The message was clear. There would be no retreat, only victory. Within a few short years, the army defeated the Visigothic rulers who had controlled the region, and a new civilization was born. The land became known as Al-Andalus. What followed was not simply a conquest. It was a transformation. Cities grew larger and more sophisticated. Agriculture improved dramatically through advanced irrigation techniques. Trade connected Europe with Africa, the Middle East, and Asia, and knowledge began to flow in ways the continent had rarely seen before. The jewel of this civilization was Córdoba. At its height in the 10th century, Córdoba was one of the largest and most advanced cities on Earth. Historians estimate its population may have reached 500,000 people. To put that in perspective, most European cities at the time had only a few thousand residents. Córdoba had paved streets and public lighting. While many European towns went dark at sunset, travelers wrote about the glow of lamps lighting the streets of this Moorish capital. The city had public baths, hospitals, and running water systems. But perhaps the most remarkable feature of Córdoba was its libraries. Some accounts claim the city held hundreds of thousands of books. At a time when books were rare and precious in much of Europe, Córdoba had become a center of global learning. Students traveled from distant lands to study there. Scholars translated ancient Greek texts into Arabic and Latin. Mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and philosophy flourished. Thinkers like Averroes helped preserve and expand the ideas of Aristotle and other ancient philosophers. These works would later influence European universities and help spark intellectual movements that eventually led to the Renaissance. The Moors were not only scholars, they were master builders and artists. Their architectural achievements still stand today. One of the most breathtaking examples is the Great Mosque of Córdoba. Inside the structure, hundreds of red and white arches stretch across a vast hall, creating a forest of stone columns. Even centuries later, visitors from around the world still stand in awe of its beauty. Another masterpiece is the Alhambra. This palace complex is famous for its intricate geometric patterns, delicate carvings, and tranquil courtyards filled with fountains. Every wall, every arch, every garden was designed with extraordinary attention to detail. These buildings remind us that Moorish Spain was not just powerful, it was elegant, it was innovative. and it was deeply connected to knowledge and culture. Life in Al-Andalus was complex and diverse. Muslims, Christians, and Jews often lived in the same cities. Although tensions existed, many periods were marked by cooperation and cultural exchange. Scholars of different religions studied together. Doctors shared medical knowledge. Merchants traded goods from distant lands. New crops were introduced to Europe through Moorish agriculture. Oranges, rice, sugar, and many other foods became part of Mediterranean life because of these exchanges. The Moors also introduced advanced irrigation systems that allowed farmers to grow crops more efficiently. Some of those irrigation systems are still used in Spain today. But history rarely moves in a straight line. As the centuries passed, Christian kingdoms in northern Spain began pushing southward. This long struggle became known as the Reconquista. For generations, battles were fought for control of cities and territories. Slowly, Christian forces gained ground. By the late 1400s, Moorish rule had been reduced to one final stronghold, the Kingdom of Granada. Granada remained a vibrant center of culture and architecture. It was here that the magnificent Alhambra Palace stood overlooking the city. But in 1492, the final chapter of Moorish political power in Spain came to an end. The rulers Ferdinand II of Aragon and Isabella then of Castile captured Granada. The last Moorish ruler surrendered the city. With that moment, nearly 700 years of Moorish rule in Iberia officially ended. Yet the influence of the Moors did not disappear. It remained woven into the culture of Spain. You can still see it in Spanish architecture, language, music, agriculture, and art. Many Spanish words have Arabic origins. The beautiful courtyards and gardens found throughout southern Spain reflect Moorish design traditions. The knowledge that passed through Moorish Spain helped shape European science and philosophy. Even today, millions of visitors walk through the Alhambra or the Great Mosque of Córdoba, amazed by what they see. These monuments stand as reminders of a remarkable era in history, an era when cultures from Africa, Europe, and the Middle East came together to create something extraordinary. The story of the Moors challenges many of the simple narratives people often hear about the past. It reminds us that civilizations are connected. Knowledge travels, ideas cross borders, and history is rarely as simple as it first appears. For centuries, the Moors helped shape the development of Europe. Their cities were centers of learning. Their scholars preserved ancient knowledge. Their architecture inspired generations. Their legacy is still visible today for anyone willing to look closely. And when we remember their story, we gain a deeper understanding of how the world we live in today was built. Because history is not only about who ruled, it is also about who shared knowledge, built civilizations, and left behind ideas that changed the future. The Moors did all of that and more, and their legacy continues to echo across Europe to this day.